You're listening to Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library podcast. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Overdoing It, where our team of library workers dish about their latest reads, views, and passions alongside fascinating conversations with local luminaries. I'm your host, Taylor, the branch librarian at the Oaklawn Branch Library in Cranston, Rhode Island, and my pronouns are she, her. Let's dive in and discover who our guests are today.
I am Lauren Walker. I am the director at Coventry Public Library, and my pronouns are also she, her.
I'm Emily Goodman, the Adult Services Coordinator at the Office of Library and Information Services, and my pronouns are she, her.
And I'm Dave Bartos. I'm the Coordinator of Adult Services at the Cranston Public Library, and my pronouns are he, him.
All right, so a little bit later in the show, we're going to have a roundtable discussion about the best pizza in Rhode Island. We all went and tried out different pizzas, and we'll dish about that a little bit later in the show. But before we get into that, let's start off, as we always do, with what have you been reading?
What have you been reading?
What have I been reading? Okay, I mean, I can go first, I guess. I've been reading Disability Intimacy, which is a essay collection put together by Alice Wong about intimacy from the perspective of these various disabled authors. So some people have talked about their romantic and sexual relationships. Some people have just talked about this concept of access intimacy, basically like someone else getting your access needs as a disabled person. And so I thought that was really interesting, like this created intimacy from someone else, like seeing you for who you are and what you need in that moment. And yes, some people talk more broadly about just like friends and how difficult it is to connect with other people, especially during the pandemic. This collection, I think, was published either end of last year or early this year. So everyone in that collection is kind of talking about intimacy in this quote unquote post-COVID landscape that we're in. So yeah, it's been really interesting, and it's been forcing me to push back on some of my own ableist stuff that I've learned from society and go like, ooh, why am I thinking that? Maybe that's actually not correct.
That sounds really interesting. I'll have to read it. I am currently reading Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia. I think it takes place in the 1950s. It starts in Mexico City, and the protagonist is kind of like a wealthy debutante and does whatever she wants. And her dad sends her to this like remote town in the mountains because her cousin, who married the man who lives in this like remote mansion, sent them like a really cryptic, disturbing letter, and he wants her to check in on her. And there's lots of family secrets and spooky things that happen, and I'm not sure what the twist is going to be, but I have a feeling that it's not anything I'm expecting. So that's good.
I definitely just let twists happen to me in books. I would just be like, the twist will come.
I like to solve the book or the movie.
I'm always wrong, so I stopped.
That's fair.
I am currently reading the debut novel from Rhys Nielsen, who's a Providence local author, called A Love Like the Sun. It's sort of a romance, although it is a little bit of a slow burn about two childhood friends through the years that enter a fake dating scenario, sort of to elevate one of the characters' shops that's kind of having some trouble. It's set on Broadway in Providence, so it names a bunch of different shops. Some listeners may remember that the folks from Heartleaf Books talked on our episode with them, so I've been in, it's been a good scheme, so it's good.
And it's fun when you're acquainted with a place to read about the place. And so specifically, it's a Celeste Ng book that was set in Cleveland Heights. And there was a whole scene that happened in a diner where, this is a contested story, but the diner where I met my wife.
Is it contested that you met her?
Well, there's one of two places that were the first time we met, but I think it was the diner. She described it in that book so well that it was like she described a dish at that diner, and I was like, they're at yours truly in Shaker Heights, that's where we met. And then my wife said, you're wrong. But that's always fun. It's like seeing a cameo. You're like, oh, this is so much more real because you've done this. I love that.
Yeah, especially because I lived in the sort of area of Providence for a little while. So yeah, all of the names that she places.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, definitely. I remember walking by that place. Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm going to check that one out. I just bought it. My boss was like, you need to buy this. And I was like, oh, but doesn't Riss Nielsen write for teens? And it's like, no, this is an adult novel, which is really exciting. So it's fun seeing her success. And, you know, that's fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And it feels young. So I think that there's older teens who are interested in her previous works that would definitely still be.
Awesome. Very cool. So what I read recently, it's kind of name droppy, kind of the story that brought me to this book, but it was so good that I think more people need to read it. So I was listening to the Circulating Ideas podcast, which is a library podcast hosted by Steve Thomas, and he had Cory Doctorow on and was doing a whole series of like interviews with authors and asking all of them to contribute a book to their summer reading list. And Cory Doctorow said, I was told by Randall Munroe, who was told by Gretchen McCullough, to read this book that's the best fantasy sci-fi book no one's ever read before. It's called The Steerswoman. It's by Rosemary Kirstein. I was just like, oh, that sounds interesting. I'll check it out. I ILL'd it from Washington. Shout out to Kings County Public Library System. Thank you for sending that over to me. But it was really, really good. And it tells the story of the main character, Rowan, who is a steerswoman. And so the steerswomen are this society of people in this seemingly medieval world. Their whole thing is they go out into the world and they research things and try to gather information. And the rules of the society are anyone can ask a steerswoman any question. And if she knows the answer, she has to tell you. But then the steerswoman gets to ask you a question. And if you do not answer, you can never ask another steerswoman another question ever again. Like, it's all about the free flow of information. And Rowan is tracking down this thing and asking questions about this object that ends up being tangentially, and she has no idea of knowing this, wizard knowledge. So there are wizards in this world who don't answer questions of steerswomen, don't ask questions of steerswomen because they want to hoard all of their information. Because if wizard knowledge became the knowledge of the steerswomen, then the steerswoman would tell everyone about it, and there would be nothing special to being a wizard anymore, right? So it ends up being kind of librarian-y that way, where it's kind of about the freedom of information, and actually that's the words on the back in giant red letters are freedom of information. And so it's really interesting. It's phenomenally written. Like, she wrote in a paragraph just kind of like setting the scene, and then some of the twists, talking about twists that happened. You don't really get a sense that it's completely revealed what's happening, but you definitely, by the end of this first book, and there's 4 written in this series, you get the sense of what's happening, but who could say? But it's so well written. It did get a starred review in Publishers Weekly in the 90s. So I'm going to spend the rest of the summer telling everyone to seek out this book. Yeah, I bought my own copy. So
all right. So besides reading, have we all been watching anything interesting?
I am doing a rewatch of Bones.
Nice.
For the first time in a very long time. I think the last time I did a full watch of Bones, my first ever, like all the way through, the series was still live publication. So I have watched up to a certain, but I don't think it's 1 or 2 seasons. So that's been really interesting to go back. It's kind of dated at the beginning for sure, but it's almost like, and it's not very cozy, but it sometimes feels to me like a cozy mystery series, because like they don't have a lot of the explosions, at least in the first couple of seasons, that I think I've come accustomed to with procedural dramas now. And so it just is like, oh, we're just discovering anthropology and bones, and like, yeah, we'll catch the killer, that whatever, but it, like everything else about it feels kind of like cozy mystery to me, as I have it on mostly.
I just watched a very strange movie that I really liked. I don't know if you've heard of Muriel's Wedding.
No.
It is from 1994, and it's starring Toni Collette. I think it's the second movie she ever did. And I was like, I saw the preview of it on Netflix, and I was like, I think that's Toni Collette, and I love her. So I watched it, and it takes place in Australia because she's Australian, which I always forget because she never plays an Australian person in any of her movies. She plays kind of like a misfit in Already, a family of misfits. And her dream is to just like get married, because she feels like if someone wants to marry her, then that means that she's good and she's like good enough. And she somehow is like friends with these women who were the popular girls in school, and they're all married. And so she wants to be married like them. And they kick her out of their friend group, which is like a weird thing for adult women to do. But so she ends up like kind of going on this like journey of self-discovery. She meets this woman named Rhonda, I believe, who becomes like her best friend. They move to Sydney together. She kind of starts a new life. And then she gets the opportunity to marry an Olympic swimmer for money because he needs to stay in the country. And I won't give away what happens, but it's definitely a weird one, but it just ended up being like a female buddy comedy, which I really liked. Nice. So I can recommend Muriel's Wedding.
Right. Did you watch it because of the Olympic connection?
No, I watched it because of Toni Collette. I have never not liked her in anything. So I was like, this has got to be good if she's in it too.
It just feels timely.
Yeah.
Speaking of grown women friendship, I've been watching Girls Five Eva on Netflix.
I watched that too.
Oh my God. It is so funny. The songs are hilarious, and everybody is just like an absolute blast. Like I just can't stop laughing. But it's a lot of fun, and to kind of get an idea of 4 friends who were in a girl group with 5 friends. One of them died, and then the 4 of them try to reunite 20 years later, and it's just a real big treat. And it's got a lot of the bones of like SNL or 30 Rock, because Tina Fey's behind that, and Lorne Michaels' company, Broadway Video or whatever. But it's a formula that works really well, and the performances are all fantastic. Renee Elise Goldberry as Wiki Roy is unbelievably hilarious. She's just so much like absurdly prima donna behavior. So I'm like almost done with the 2nd season, looking forward to continuing in the 3rd season, but I'm absolutely loving it. It's so fun.
Yeah, I watched it too. It was really good. Sarah Bareilles, she's really funny.
There was a filmed stage production that she's in, and I took it out because it's in the library system. I took it out sometime in the spring, and it was fantastic, and I cried like a baby at the end. Just like all the feelings, all the emotions. And then I had to text our D&D group to be like, I just watched Waitress and cried like a baby, and I need someone to validate that was an okay life decision. Not that I decided, but like I need someone else to validate me, because right now I'm just sitting in my living room crying by myself.
Well, there was a song in Girls Five Eva that made me cry last night, and it was about to happen, and I paused the TV and I had to text my sister and do the same thing. It was like, I'm about to cry watching Girls Five Eva, and I just need someone to know that this is okay. These are real emotions.
Week as I've been watching sparingly the Olympics when I'm ever with somebody who has either Peacock or cable, I've been crying when people finish their little stunts. I shouldn't say little stunts. These are like massively famous and like well-respected athletes. I could never do what they're doing. But as soon as they finish whatever their sport is, whatever their event is, when they are excited, when they show like the people in the stands cheering for them, or their family back home, or their friends back home in their gyms where they've been training, and everybody's cheering. This is a thing that happens to me. Instead of being like, yay, I sob like a baby. I'm like, oh my God, the emotions. So it's always okay to me if you cry, and whatever makes you cry, even if it's happy.
Yeah.
Also, the Celine Dion documentary. I just watched it. Oh my goodness. Definitely watch it, but also you will cry. I cried a lot. And I watched it knowing that she sang at the Olympics, but I hadn't watched it yet. So then I watched the Olympics performance and cried again.
I didn't realize. This is the weird corner of the internet that my partner's on. The only thing I knew about performances at the Olympic opening ceremonies is that the French metal band Gojira performed for the opening ceremonies. The clip of it is pretty wild. They're like standing on these like balconies on this building that looks like a castle, and there's like pyrotechnics coming up from the ground.
Nice. And
there's like the guitarist on this balcony, like the drums on this balcony, and Yeah. So it.
Oh, that's so extra.
That sounds pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like that's the only. So like when now I'm hearing where I'm like, oh, like and then people are like, oh, did you hear the thing? But people are upset that it was supposed to be Last Supper, but it wasn't, and blah blah blah. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. All I know is that Gojira was there.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was like Celine Dion performed.
Do you know that Snoop Dogg is a commentator?
I did know that
Okay.
because one of my part-timers told me that she's been watching it and she's been like, they've been having Snoop Dogg on. It's been so fun.
And
They had
Flava
Martha
Flav is
Stewart
also-
on with
Yeah,
it.
Flava Flav is there.
Yeah.
And like sponsored a bunch of people, like paid somebody's rent because she was at risk of losing her apartment from being
Yep.
at the Olympics. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. But yeah, Celine Dion was sick and wasn't sure if she could ever sing again, and then sang on the Eiffel Tower and did an amazing job. And I was just like,
My heart will also go on.
exactly.
So I've got two things. One for a series is I finally watched Queen Charlotte
Okay.
because I can only watch Netflix shows when I hang out with my mom.
So you watched Queen Charlotte with your mom?
I did.
I love
and
it. I
and
also watched Bridgerton with my mom, not realizing what direction Bridgerton was going.
Yes,
and that
I
it
was-
not like Downton Abbey.
Yep, that was going to be my commentary too because, well, I watched season 2 by myself.
Okay.
My mom and I watched season 1 together, and then I watched season 2 by myself.
How did you
and
watch
then,
it by yourself?
At that point, Netflix was not being mean about passwords.
Oh, okay.
So I watched it by myself, but then password crackdown. Now all my Netflix viewing is done at my parents' house. And so I was like, yeah. And my mom kept saying that she watched it like multiple times. All of Bridgerton so far, well, except season 3, because I think she's waiting to rewatch it with me. But I was like, okay, well, we should watch Queen Charlotte before we watch season 3, because I knew that there was like flash forwards to the present
Okay.
in Queen Charlotte. But yeah, that was the one thing that I was like, wow, I forgot how much they do it in this show, in these shows.
I was listening to a podcast, and I can't remember which one, but the actress who plays Charlotte on Bridgerton was the guest. And somebody asked her about it because Queen Charlotte had not come out yet. And she was like, well, if you think Bridgerton is spicy, like, just so you know, Queen Charlotte is even spicier. And so that's when I started watching Bridgerton with my mom. And I was like, I don't think we're going to watch good Charlotte. We won't be doing that together either. So did you like it?
I did. And then and I cried at the end of that too. Actually, I wasn't as emotional as I thought I was going to be because my mom was like, brace yourself, because she had watched it all before. But then it ended up it was like a bittersweet moment, but there was sweetness there to the end. I was worried for him, like not remembering her at all, like being like the worst case scenario. And it wasn't that. So I was like, oh, okay, this wasn't completely heart-wrenching. It just is a little sad because it's the Regency era and we don't know about mental health stuff. Yeah. So we don't have ways to help people besides hurting them.
Boo.
Yeah. Boo torture as
Yeah,
mental
that is an
health
official
care.
Overdoing It stance.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, and then my second thing was in my fashion of being way too late to the party for things. I finally watched Gladiator for the first time because
Oh,
they're
wow.
going to make Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
So,
Were you entertained?
I was entertained, and yeah, and I don't know. I think in my head, I thought that Gladiator and 300 were the same movie, and they're not. So,
Very
I haven't
different.
seen either of them. So
so I went into Gladiator, I think, with expectations that weren't what they were. But yeah, no, ultimately enjoyed it. But at the end, I kept being like, he was like high up in the army, and then he just got kidnapped. I was like, that just happened in Rome. If you were unconscious for a couple hours in the open, they just kidnapped you, and then you became a slave. And David was like, yeah.
Yep.
And I was like, okay.
I don't think they had this tracking of people
Yeah.
that we do now.
That's fair, yeah. Besides that,
Yeah.
very interesting.
It's really fun to learn the basic plot of Gladiator right here.
Yeah.
Didn't know anything about
Yeah.
it.
I haven't
Yeah, I
seen
keep
it in
looking
years.
at you, and
I
then you
forgot.
said that you hadn't watched it.
It's all right. You can look at me. That's fine.
I forgot that they kidnapped him. I think I had conflated like what happened with his wife and kid all at once with him becoming a slave, but yeah, they do just
Yeah.
pick him up.
He was at his house. Like, he
Right.
was on his land. Someone just rolled up to his house and was like, oh no, this man is unconscious on top of his wife and son's grave.
Mine.
Mine.
This man can't stop us from putting him on a cart.
who's going to run their hands through all that weed? Isn't that movie?
Yes,
that's okay. Okay. Who's gonna do it?
Who's gonna do it?
Well, do we want to take a break and then come back and talk about pizza?
Yeah.
Whoop whoop.
Emily, can you talk a little bit about kind of the idea behind this food podcast and some of the previous food-themed podcast episodes you've been involved in?
Yes. So listeners of Rhody Radio from the past will remember our segments called Rhody Eats. We did episodes on ice cream, chowder, and we did tacos in partnership with the Rhode Island Food Fights in a special episode. And so you can find links for all of those in our show notes. And if you like our upcoming discussion and you want to participate, you can do a pizza comparison this November with the Rhode Island Food Fights Lord of Pies, and we'll drop that link in the show notes as well. For this episode, the Overdueing It team went to 6 pizza places throughout Rhode Island in the past month that were suggested to us on social media from fellow Rhode Islanders as their favorite pizza places. Now, after a month of tasting pizzas, we've come together at the Oakland branch of the Cranston Public Library with some special pizzas from the Big Cheese and Pub here in Cranston, and we're going to talk about our experience. So here we go. For listeners, the pizza from the Big Cheese is a small pizza that feels heavier than probably every other large pizza I've ever carried.
Yes.
So it's dense.
The cheese truly is big.
The cheese truly is big.
All right. This is an in-person real slice. I went to the Big Cheese Pub here in Cranston on the way over to the Oakland branch to record. I can share a personal story about the Big Cheese and Pub. It's been a stopping point ever since I've been coming to this area 15, 16 years ago with my wife when we would come visit her family. It was a place we always wanted to go. My favorite story from the Big Cheese, my kid was 3 and was said, what do you want to do for your birthday? And they said, I want to go to the Roger Williams Park Zoo, and then I want to go eat at the Big Cheese. And I said, okay, like that's super achievable. And so we went out to Roger Williams Park Zoo. We had a great time. And then we went to the Big Cheese, and we were sitting down to order. And my kid said, I want a mini pepperoni pizza with candle in it. And we were like, we're not prepared for that because you didn't tell us this bit of information when we left the house. But we asked, and they were like, oh, yeah, we have candles. And they brought out a little pizza with candle in it and made my child feel super special. And, you know, I already loved a Big Cheese, but that really is something I think about every time I go there. So, yeah, we got barbecue chicken and we got plain cheese. So somebody else who's taken a bite already can have some thoughts.
Okay.
That's a very sweet story. It's adorable.
So the only times that I've been to the Big Cheese were because of the Rhode Island Food Fates, which we've worked with in the past. And my thought then was like, it is good that the cheese is so cheesy that it has like that really classic 90s Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like cheese pull sometimes, which I find overwhelming as an eater. So like actually right now as takeout, superb. I'm really enjoying that my cheese has congealed a little bit more.
Yeah. This is the, like, with the other pizzas that we had, I had time to, like, collect my thoughts. Because at first I'm just like, pizza is good.
This is recorded. You can collect your thoughts.
Yes.
Cut this.
But I guess I tried the cheese first, and my first kind of, like, impressions of it is just, like, classic up and down pizza. You know, like, hitting all the things you want in a pizza. Cheese sauce ratio is good, which is a big thing for me. Like, I want there to be a good amount of sauce. Yeah, crust is tasty. Just overall, what I would look for in a pizza. And I would say so far, probably my second favorite overall of all the pizzas I've eaten for this. So, because we'll get into it. About.
I think the barbecue chicken one is really good.
Yeah.
And I like the chicken because I'm very picky about pizza chicken. Like my husband thinks I'm crazy and doesn't understand textures of foods, but I feel like a lot of the time when you get chicken on a pizza, it's very chewy. Like it's pretty hit or miss, but this is very good.
Yeah. It's
Pizza
almost
chicken.
like pulled chicken. Barbecue pulled chicken. Yeah.
I like that the barbecue sauce is not too intensely barbecue saucy. Like, I have a hard time when it just feels like you took a bottle and dumped it on a piece of dough and then put some chicken on top of it. Like, I don't know about, like, texture, but sensory-wise, it's too much for me. And I also really like, shout out to for sort of doing what I can't really understand as I'm looking at it, but it almost looks like they have taken the chicken and cheese and mixed it all together in a bowl and then put it on the pizza. It's like a little bit over the cheese, a little bit under the cheese, so there's nothing falling off.
I would say of all the ones I tried, this is my ideal of what the crust should be like. Like I'm a bread guy, and this is a very doughy crust. And you talked about like the density of the pizza. Like we've got medium pizzas here that were, they were definitely heavier than some of the larges I had as well. But yeah, I like that kind of, that breadiness is what I look for personally.
So we should talk about the other places that we went while we're munching on this big cheese. So Lauren's got the list.
Yeah, so the first one on the list is Pasquale's.
All right.
Down in South County. Dave and I both went to. So first, Dave, what flavor pizza did you go with?
So I ordered online, and I had choice paralysis because the online order, you could only get the New York style, and then you had to choose from a list of like 22 toppings. And I was like, what do I do? So I had pepperoni, black olives, and onions, and it was very good. I ate an olive all by itself, and it was really salty, and I was worried that the whole thing was going to be really salty, but that wasn't the case. It did balance out with the rest of the pizza. It was the kind of the most middle thickness crust of all the ones that I had, so it was a nice crispy bottom. And New York style had a good fold to it, which was good. How about you? What'd you have?
I got the ricotta meatball. I'm a sucker for a place that makes their own meatballs, sometimes to my own detriment. They're not all good. You know, not everywhere can have perfect meatballs. And so I go in hesitantly, but also, you know what? If you're going to make it yourself, I'm going to try it. And very good meatballs. The ricotta was really nice. Like you said, so the two places that I went to were very New York style pizzas, which I liked for comparison reasons. And this one I thought had a good fold and not a lot of flop.
Yes.
I have a hard time with New York pizza that has too much flop and the sauce runs off of it. So I really enjoyed that. And I just want to do a quick shout out. So I took my pizza to go, and then I headed over to Tower Hill Brewery, which is right around the corner. They encourage you to bring, well, I don't know if they specifically encourage you, but you are welcome to bring food with you to the brewery because they don't sell food. And so I had some lovely beer and this pizza at the same time. Peak weekend experience.
Perfect.
For me. Yeah.
That is pretty perfect. And I mean, I would love to go back and like try that Napolitana pizza. Like, looks incredible. And I was just reading about like, you know, all of their rave reviews and their stars, and it's apparently one of the 50 best Neapolitan pizzas in the world.
Wow.
which is amazing. And I mean, it definitely, you know, makes me think about the meatballs. Like they certainly have the goods, and they have like an Italian shop attached, which is really cool. So like, it did have a little bit of that, like, you know, like TGI Fridays vibe, like the place itself, but also South County Commons, that's very new. And, you know, so it's going to feel very new. And, you know, I don't want that to be a detriment to it. The food was fantastic for sure.
I think it's worth noting, if listeners don't really know this, the process to go through to be certified to be a Neapolitano pizza place is like really rigorous. You have to get your ingredients from a very specific place, and so that's really cool that they're even certified.
They're like certified,
and then
exactly.
That they're in the top 50 is saying something.
I thought you were going to say the process of going to Wakefield.
No, easy peasy.
So what's our next place?
The next place is Pizza Marvin, and that's one that I went to.
Me too. Everyone gets to keep hearing me talk.
Pizza Marvin, I really liked. It says that they have 3 different types of mozzarella on the cheese. House-made, Fior di Latte, which I think is cow's milk mozzarella, and then low moisture. And there was definitely a more complex cheese flavor, if that makes sense, than like most other pizzas. So I really liked that. Yeah. I just got the house cheese pizza, but they had lots of really unique options.
Yeah, well, I got the North Provolone, which I assume was a play on North Providence. That's the only thing I can imagine. And it was sausage, provolone, and pepperoncini, and it was really good. That was definitely the thinnest crust I had, and, you know, but also really good. I don't think it had much flop. I don't recall flop.
I don't think there was much flop to it.
Yeah. These are agreed upon terms.
Yes.
The taste was great. The quality of the toppings was really good, like good sausage. I was struck, and I think this was a theme to my reviews, at how well each of the places I went to belonged to the neighborhood it was in. And so like Fox Point is a real kind of like trendy college town, artsy, all the indie like stores and galleries and things. And like Pizza Marvin really fit that. Like it just kind of had that, like it's the pizza place for the neighborhood it's in. And so I think that's what I really enjoyed about the atmospheres of the places. And, you know, Pizza Marvin had a nice small menu, but a little bit of everything, which was cool. So I would go back there for some of the other like seafood appetizers or, have a drink or something for sure.
Yeah, I definitely want to go back and try the weenie fries.
Yes.
But it also comes with like the celery aioli instead of ketchup, because I think with that celery salt like aspect of hot wieners. So yeah, that sounds really good.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that I'd gotten it, but I was like, you know what? I've already had 2 pizzas. I'm going, no, but it's a lot of pizza.
Awesome.
I probably within like, a few weeks, I ended up, I don't do things that early sometimes. So it was a lot of pizza in a short span of time. Yeah. So I was like, I'm just going to get the pizza and be done with it. But the weenie fries sounded really good. The next one on the list was Pizza J.
I went there.
I went there too. So I would describe Pizza J's pizza as like a brick oven thin crust pizza, but still not too much flop, even though it was quite.
I thought mine was very flaky.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
Well, okay.
Okay.
I did not get to eat the Pizza J pizza hot because Pizza J is that also technically Federal Hill over there?
It's somewhere between Federal Hill and the West End.
Yeah. And I had went during dinner time, which is also rush hour time. So by the time I got there, 30 minutes had elapsed, and then I had another basically 30 minutes to get back home. So maybe it kind of like solidified when when we ate it kind of on the cooler side. So I ordered the King Title pizza, which is bacon and pineapple, and there's also some scallions on it. I understand pineapples on pizza is a controversial topic, but I enjoy pineapple on pizza, so that is what I went for. And I would say that the toppings were still really flavorful and really good, even though the pizza was not like hot. So again, talking about like places that you might want to go and sit down, I think this is a place where I might want to go and sit down, because also the atmosphere was really cool in there. There's pinball machines. Their door handle is like a mermaid, and they had like kind of like fancier appetizers on their menu than I was expecting for a pizza restaurant, but like none of them sounded like they would travel well. So I just like opted to not do that.
Yeah, so my experience at Pizza J was a little different. I got a pizza. It was a specialty pizza, and I can't remember what the name of it was, but it had bacon, cranberries, feta cheese, and arugula on it. No sauce. It was a white pizza, and it did have like the regular cheese blend, and then the feta and the arugula were tossed on cold at the end. I think also the cranberries were, so maybe just the bacon was baked in. And I had ordered it online, but in very Emily fashion, I did that from about 5 to 10 minutes away from the place on like a Saturday or Sunday evening at dinner time. And so I showed up and I was just like, I'm a little early, but I just thought I would check out my pizza. And they had like 18 slips on the counter, and they were like, do. Yeah, it's not ready yet. We can see if we can rush it since you're here. And I was like, that's fine. No worries. I will just hop at the bar and have a drink and just wait for my pizza. And I think in addition to the cool vibe of like pinball machines and stuff at Pizza J, the other cool thing is they're always playing some sort of like older, sometimes horror-y film, but they've always got something fun playing on the TVs. Nice big bar. It was actually pretty empty inside for the time of night it was. Seems like a lot of people were doing takeout, so I got one of the signature cocktails on the list, and I don't remember what it was, but it was some sort of a twist on a mint julep with a Japanese molasses in it as like the syrup, and it was kind of a robust taste. It was really good. I really enjoyed it. Nice small ice like you get in a mint julep, so definitely would recommend going, sitting in, getting a drink, getting a pizza. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, mine definitely had a lot of flop to it, and then day old pizza was a little tough with the arugula. I didn't really plan ahead for that, but it was good.
Yeah,
it sounds like a cool place.
Yeah.
Definitely gonna check that out. The next one on the list is Caserta.
Classic.
I went to that one.
I went to Caserta too.
Yeah. Caserta for me was giving Coca's Pizza in Boardman, Ohio, which is where I went growing up, and it's really important. Shout out Coca's Pizza, not the new Coca's Pizza, which is a little more like Pasquale's. Across the street was the old Coca's Pizza, and it's just like, it's got the counter, it's got the Coke machine, it's got those wooden scoop booths, and it's just like a pizza place. And, again, going back to the neighborhood thing, like that's right in Federal Hill. And it was a very Italian pizzeria, and I loved it. And what blew my mind, and so I talked about my choice paralysis at Pasquale's, they only have 4 toppings at Caserta, which is pepperoni, mushrooms, black olives, and anchovies. And you can pick a pizza with no toppings, 1 topping, 2 of the toppings, 3 of the toppings, or all 4 of the toppings. Like that's how it's done. And I asked them about that because I've never seen that before. And he said that when the owners opened the place and they were from Italy, that's how pizza was made in the region of Italy where they came from. And it's like, that's just what pizza was. And that's how they started it. And then the current owners took over in 1981. Shout out to I Was Born. And they just kind of kept doing it. He said, we sell a lot of it, so we must be doing something right. And because that blew my mind, I did get the pizza with all 4 toppings because I just was like, okay, there must be a reason. And it is really good. I don't do anchovies very often, but it was a really good taste that went along with everything else. And a nice thick crust, not quite as thick as the big cheese, but, good thick crust pizza, pan pizza. And I also got, because they said they were the home of the Wimpy Skippy, I was like, well, that's not that expensive. What's a Wimpy Skippy? And I got one, and it was really good. It was a spinach pie with like pepperoni and black olives and cheese in it. It was fantastic. I almost enjoyed that more than the pizza, but I liked the pizza very much. But I'd go get one of those again.
So is Caserta, I've gone one time and those are 4 toppings that I don't choose for myself. So I never went back. But I think also Caserta is one of the places where cheese is a top that has to be asked for, which is a very Rhode Island
Oh, really?
thing.
Okay.
Yeah. So interesting that you can also get a no topping pizza that's hot, right? I'm gonna look at you, Taylor, like you are.
Well, so I did not order like a no, but I'm just confirming because when I did call and I just said, hey, can I get a large pepperoni pizza, thinking that you order pizza like you would normally order a pizza, and then the woman on the phone was like, do you want cheese on that? And I was like, yes, please. So yes, I do. I can confirm that it seems like
Interesting.
Cheese is a topping, needs to be specified. So I'm assuming they're selling, unless they're selling like hot sauce and pepperoni, but like and other toppings, but no cheese.
Well, I mean,
to folks.
I ordered online and I got the 4 topping pizza, which also had cheese on it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe it's something enough people ask for that they just want to make sure that they get it right for people. They also sell dough by the pound and sauce by the quart, which is pretty cool. So I love that. I really enjoyed it. I liked Caserta a lot. It just really it awakened, though nostalgia is one of the most toxic of impulses. It did be like, oh, I like pizza places. That's right. It really felt like coming home.
Dave forgot him.
That's right. I like pizza places.
No, but it is your very stereotypical pizza place. Yep. And I was thinking of it as like your very stereotypical like Northeastern pizza place. So I guess good to know the Italian Americans in the Midwest are also keeping up the tradition of like, you're like wood paneling. Booths and just
could have had like the white menu with the little red letters stuck in, like place. That would have felt right at home.
But I liked Caserta. It definitely still is not like jumping up to become one of my favorites. I think I'm not as big of a thick crust fan, and so they do like the rectangle Sicilian style there. So you do get a big pizza when you get a large pizza. So we had leftovers of that with the Pizza J pizza we didn't have leftovers of. I also got the Wimpy Skippy because again, it says it like on their website that they're like home of and the small menu is nice in terms of the choice paralysis kind of thing that you don't have to be like, oh well, what out of these 20 specialty pizzas do we want to eat? It's just very like simple. You get a pizza.
I do like when there's specialty like pizzas though, because you can be like, oh, somebody who does this every day has thought like, oh, these are flavors that go nice together, and if you like some of these things, you'll probably like all of this. So I like that. It really is when it's like, here's a pizza with nothing on it. Yeah. And you could have any number of other things on it that you want. And so what was nice about Caserta, it was like, oh, 4 things. All right, I'll try all 4 things. Yeah. Normally I probably would have done it without the anchovy, but I'm feeling saucy. Like a pizza.
I also think specials is nice because, I don't know about you guys, but if you choose your pizza place, the standard toppings can feel really stale. Like, oh, what do I want? Because I also get the same things every time. And so to have a rotating cast of new things coming up that you can try, be like, oh, I wanted something reliable because I know that their pizza is going to be good, but also new and different for me specifically.
Yes.
It's fun. Yeah.
Okay, the next one is PVD pizza.
Woo.
Which I went
didn't
to.
go, but
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I don't know if it was one that was technically like mine, but
Oh, you were the only one who put down a request after I had like first shared the list to say if there's something you really want to go to, like choose them before I place you at places. You were the only one, and that's the one.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm gonna
because I was like, I don't have to go. We get that pizza. I already know what it's like.
I know the whole menu.
So that's your go-to.
Yes. There is one in Warwick, kind of ish near the airport. And yeah, that's the one that we go to. We like their chicken parm pizza. We like the eggplant parm pizza if you're an eggplant eater. They're just like straight up veggie pizza is also very good. But yeah, it's just got all the factors for me. Enough sauce so that it's not a dry pizza. Good crust, not too much flop. It's great.
I ordered it from like Grubhub or DoorDash. I was like, one of these has got to be deliverable to me, and that was the one. So they did have a lot of like unconventional options. Like they had like an Alfredo pesto, which sounded really good.
It's good.
But I did not go with that. I got we got a half cheese, half mac and cheese.
Oh.
Because I was like,
You
mac
made the
and
right
cheese
choice.
pizza. It was so good. I actually think the mac and cheese pizza I might have liked better than the plain cheese, which
Nice.
I've had that before, and it can be hit or miss with mac and cheese pizza, but it was really good. Like it was, I think a beer cheese sauce, and it was still saucy on the pizza instead of it just being like the cheese from the pizza.
Explain
which I
this
really
in
liked.
more detail, please.
Okay. How?
Like, so
Is there
it's
also red
crust.
sauce?
Is there red
yep.
sauce?
So it's
Okay.
crust,
Uh-huh.
red sauce, I think. Or no, maybe it's
So
just the cheese sauce.
You may have gotten red sauce if you got half cheese and half macaroni and cheese.
I'm
But
actually
if you
not sure
do
that I
just
did.
mac and cheese. So I also frequent PBD Pizza, and their mac and cheese pizza was like the first thing I was like, ooh, I'll try this. And then, man, I could never look back. I've tried their other pizzas. They're very good, but like it's the mac and cheese pizza. So it's rigatoni, which I think is big because it's big noodles spread out, but it's like that covered in beer cheese on a pizza with like their pizza cheese on top,
Oh, wow.
baked. It's not too cheesy. It's just really good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I'm just going to write that
I
down.
will I will say I thought like I was like this might be good if I added chicken to it. And
able to.
I didn't like their chicken. It seemed like it was like chopped up chicken tenders, and I wasn't feeling those particular chicken tenders.
If you're a little baby about spice like me, their fried pickles are spicy in the batter, and then the dip is also kind of spicy. But other than that,
Good to know.
yeah.
Also a baby about spice. Baby
I'm like,
spice.
oh. I was like, fried pickles. And then I was like, these fried pickles hurt my mouth. But otherwise, all the appetizers have been good. I mean, hard to mess up a mozzarella stick or something like that. But yeah, it's my go-to, and I enjoyed trying the other places, but none of the other places that I tried knocked PVD out of my like first place. So
Overall, I really liked PBD pizza. That might be my second favorite, but my first favorite was Antonio's, which is the next one on the list, and that one is a favorite of mine. So I used to go to Antonio's all the time when I went to UMass Amherst. So they have a location there, and I have had their like tortellini pizza a few times, which is really good. But this time I got a slice of plain cheese and a slice of the Sicilian pepperoni because I've never tried their like Sicilian style pizza before. And then Nate got 2 slices of barbecue chicken bacon ranch, which like as soon as he ordered that, I was like, I should have ordered that. That sounds really good. So the plain cheese was good, of course. What I really like is that the cheese was stretchy, but it didn't like pull the whole cheese off the pizza when I was like stretching it.
Yeah.
You know?
Takes off the cheese from the next one.
Yes,
Yeah, and you're like, well,
exactly.
now what do I do?
Yeah. So that was really good, and they have like a really crispy like not just the crust itself, but like the bottom of the pizza is really crispy, which I liked. Probably more flop than you would like.
Okay.
I don't mind flop, but for the New York style. And then the Sicilian, the pepperoni was actually too spicy for me. And I ended up trading that slice for one of Nate's barbecue chicken bacon ranch slices, which was so good. And I can highly recommend that.
Is the ranch like a drizzle on top?
Yeah. So it was like barbecue base with possibly like barbecue chicken, like tossed, and bacon. And then the ranch was like a drizzle. And it was like just... Nate actually thought it was too salty, but I thought it was like the perfect, like, because the barbecue is kind of sweet. So I thought it balanced out very well. So yeah, all around, I love Antonio's pizza. And the vibe was good too. We went to the one on Thayer Street. So there was like a decent number of like college students there. But the staff was really nice. I always like when you can like see the pizza like behind glass in order to like pick out what you want. So I just hadn't seen that chicken bacon ranch until I had already ordered.
So is it safe to say there are a lot of options?
Yes, lots of options. And they actually had a lot of vegetarian options too, which I thought was good. But yeah, lots of options for sure.
I gotta say, I didn't expect to get to the end of this couple of weeks of eating pizza wanting to eat more pizza. But there's definitely a few that I'm like, oh yeah, I gotta try that.
All right. We wrap up the show with a segment we call The Last Chapter, where we usually talk about a library or bookish related question, but we thought today, since we were eating and talking about food, that we would ask more of a food related question. So Emily has brought our last chapter question to us today.
Yeah. So I first want to say that this is inspired by the Off Menu podcast with James A. Castor and Ed Gamble, two great British comedians. If you haven't listened, it's a fun thing. They talk about creating a menu at your dream restaurant. And so today, I will ask all of you, since we're eating pizza, if you could design your dream pizza, what would it be? What would the toppings be? Would there be sauce, cheese? What kinds of cheese? So take a moment.
I spent like 15 minutes talking about choice paralysis, and I could choose from infinity.
See, this is hard because I feel like my dream pizza, well, it used to exist, I guess.
Okay.
So before PVD Pizza was PVD Pizza, or at least the location in West Warwick was Westcott House. And Westcott House's veggie pizza was amazing because it was like covered in veggies. And so it had the green peppers and the onions and olives, and it had fried eggplant on it, which I really like and thought was a nice addition that made it a hearty like veggie pizza, since you don't have any other like meat related proteins on there. PVD Pizza's veggie pizza is close to what that pizza was, but it is not exactly the same as the Westcott House pizza was. So R.I.P. Westcott House.
I can go next if you guys need another minute.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So mine is sort of based on a completely different dish that I've had. And it's like a flatbread type breadish thing with goat cheese, honey, thyme, and pears, which they had at a restaurant. So I'm envisioning this beautiful pizza with a very like creamy white sauce on the bottom because I don't want a dry white pizza. Okay, so I'm gonna make a little bechamel sauce, but with some like the inside of a camembert cheese, or like a slightly stinky but not brie scale stinky, like a little bit less than that, a little really buttery kind of cheesiness on the bottom. Okay, so we're gonna set the scene. We're gonna layer some pears on there. Do a nice, I would make probably a thyme hot honey, and so they would have the white sauce, the pears, some goat cheese, throw that in the oven, cook it all up, and drizzle some thyme hot honey at the end, and maybe like some fresh thyme on top. I think it would be really good.
Yep.
So any pizza place that wants to sponsor Overdoing It and make that pizza.
Yeah.
That sounds very gourmet.
Yes.
Probably my favorite type of pizza is like pan pizza. Like memories of Pizza Hut. I read a book. I got this pan pizza. So my perfect pizza would definitely have like a pan pizza crust.
Okay.
And then little story about when my husband and I first started dating, we ordered a pizza and we both like pineapple, which was like, finally I found a person who likes pineapple pizza like me. And I was like, I don't know, I kind of like Hawaiian pizza, but I wish that there was something better than ham to put on it. And then he was like, let's put bacon on it. I was like, that is amazing. And that's like, now it's like a weird, like romantic thing for us to get a throwback to our, like one of our first dates, a pineapple and bacon pizza. But I was just remembering that there was a pizza place, and I'm going to forget what it's called, in Swansea that had a really good chorizo pizza.
Have you ever done chorizo and pineapple?
No, but I'm saying that sounds really good. That's what I was just going to say. Because the pineapple would cut it. Yeah, you totally stole my thought. No, I'm just okay. No, great minds think alike. I think that would be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? I think it's Rehoboth Plaza Pizza, but that's one we go to. But that's on 44 in Rehoboth.
I think it was it. I think it was like Plaza Pizza too.
Okay,
it was Plaza in like Pizza. A little plaza in Swansea.
Isn't everything in Swansea a little plaza?
Yes. Yes, it is a town of plazas.
Is by Thai Taste?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Oh, I went there one time. Can't remember what it was called either, but the owner gave me a free garlic knot. It just like walked around with a plate of garlic knots. I was like, would you like one? I was like, absolutely, I would.
Nice. Well, there you go. They have good chorizo pizza if you ever go back.
Okay.
All right. Get some pineapple on that.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. I mean, I think pizza's kind of perfect as is, but I guess you're making me think of like other foods that I might enjoy. And we kind of had like the barbecue chicken, but I think something that has like the real barbecue, like get some like, brisket kind of fall off the bone on there with some barbecue sauce. And, this was kind of a mix of like cheddar and something else. There was definitely another cheese in there, something like that. And, maybe some vegetables that go with stereotypically, I got it. That's where the mac and cheese goes. Throw a little mac and cheese on there too. Yeah, so little mac and cheese on that, and just sort of like pit barbecue burger or pit barbecue pizza.
Barbecue pizza.
Yeah, on a burger. No,
that'd be wild.
That would yeah.
That sounds really good.
I love all pizzas.
You could put corn on it too, which is something that they do in Ireland, which is super weird, but actually tastes pretty good. Yeah.
Oh, and now I want it to be like a cornmeal crust, so it's almost like cornbread, sort of like a cornbread crust. Yeah. Okay.
Someone needs to make this pizza.
Maybe I do.
It sounds really good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you all for bringing the pizza and the podcast to me today. And thank you everyone for listening. Overdoing It is proud to be a resident partner of the Rhode Island Center for the Book and brought to you by library staff and community members from around the Ocean State. The project has been funded in part by the Rhode Island Office of Library and Information Services. If you'd like to respond to our last chapter question or just reach out to the show, you can send an email to overdoingitpod@gmail.com or find us on Instagram @overdoingitpod. If you enjoyed today's episode, please rate and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify to help us reach more Rhode Islanders. Thank you again for listening, and this has been another episode of Overdoing It, the Rhode Island Library podcast. We're overdoing it, but you're doing just fine.
Someone's getting called out right here on the live recorded podcast.
Oh no.